What is up? Good Tuesday evening. It's another edition of Hobby Hotline. This time it's the overtime version that we do on Tuesday. I'm joined with two gentlemen. I'm glad to call. Uh,
Do you lag out? Or did I
He
lag
did.
out?
Maybe it's just you and me, Ryan.
I think it might. Oh, there he is.
oh, all right, man. I hope that's temporary. And below us, only on the screen, Mr. Mike Moynihan, baseball collector. We're not gonna get a yo and a hello.
Yo and hello.
All right, now we can start. I was like, we got to get a yo and a hello. All right, the first thing, guys, I want to talk about, card shows are a huge deal. And we all actually were in three different locales at three different shows. Myself here as a dealer set up in Syracuse did very, very well. Actually, the best I've ever done at a Syracuse show. And Ryan was in Philadelphia and Mike was in his backyard at the Dallas show. So I'll let you guys. I don't know who wants to go first, but we'll start with Ryan. I mean, just give your thoughts on being at the Philly show, what you see on the floor.
Yeah. So honestly, I thought the Philly show was going to kind of be dead because Dallas was the same weekend. And I was more than wrong because that was the most packed I've ever seen the Philly card show. I only went 2 times last year. I haven't gone years past. But talking to dealers, they were all saying they'd done the best they ever had. And especially on Friday, people were just swarming the tables, buying whatever they can vintage wise. People were buying up a bunch of Cobbs. A lot of the red Cobbs were moving really easily, even over comps. Then there was a bunch of Mantles and Mays. Like those were the three big players that everyone across the board. What's cool though at the show is all the auction houses and some of the bigger dealers just decided to bring the big boys to the show because there's 2 or 3 Satchel 48 Leafs there. There's also 2 Joe Jacksons, his rookie card, and as well there was a Hannes Wagner at the show. There was other amazing cards too, but when you have those 3 iconic cards at any card show, even just one copy, it's amazing.
Now you're good at spotting, some fake slabs, some fake cards. I mean, you wrote your book, Spotting Fakes, which if you don't have it, go out and get it. I get 10% commission, Ryan told me. So there it is. Look at that. I have it. I just don't have it right next to me.
Mike's worthless.
That's under
Sean.
Mike's.
Come on, you got to have it right there for promotional purposes.
Now, I mean, did you see anything along those lines? Did you notice anything yourself, Ryan?
So I didn't notice anything that stood out to me. I didn't single case for fake cards because when I go to shows, I only have a few hours on the floor and I got to shoot all the B-roll. I have to do the interviews. So I'm in and out, especially when I fly the same exact days. But it's funny because one of my friends in Dallas actually almost bought a fake Kobe Ovations autograph. So Mojo Sports ended up reaching out to me because someone brought this card to his table. He knew I did a video on it and covered it in the book, and the card was fake. And that is not fake Kobe Ovations I've seen at the Dallas card show.
So, I mean, you get a lot of people now with the book being out, Ryan, like people come up to you like, hey, I'm thinking about buying this card. Can you come over here and kind of give me the thumbs up on this thing just to make sure?
I don't really have that happening yet, and I'd love to help people, but I still have to go out there and shoot all the video and still at least try for the show, especially, flying out and everything like that, because I'm kind of on a time schedule for everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, you said you've been there, this was the third time or the second time?
That was the third time at the Philly show. So they had it 2 times last year and went both times. It's always fun because I'd say it's 70 to 80% vintage, and then the other percentage is modern. A lot of the modern dealers this time ended up going to Dallas, so it was just a few extra vintage dealers. And, you see quite a few cool cards. And I wanted to show one pickup. It's not going to match the 52 that you have, but take a look at this. It's a Burt Byleven rookie, but what's cool, it's a blank back. So you don't see blank backs that often at card shows, and I couldn't pass up getting a 71.
Yeah, it's cool. And
Nice.
his rookie year as well. Yeah. Let's head to Dallas where Mike was, and you just alluded to it, Ryan. Mike got a little bit better than Blyleven, but go ahead and show it.
Mine's not a blank back, but it's a
I'll trade
Yeah.
it.
52 Bowman mantle.
Yeah, Ryan says he'll trade you.
Yeah, one for one trade.
Yeah,
That's
right.
a fair deal.
Yeah, 52 Bowman.
I now need only 2 mantles for the whole run. I need the 52 tops and the 53 tops, and I'll have every mantle base card. So
What did not now, Mike, going to that 52 Bowman, did you go into that show with that thought, or just one of those things you saw it, you just, worked the deal out type of deal?
yeah, I actually kind of went into this show with about $1,000 budget in my mind, and that card's more than way over $1,000. So on Saturday of the show, I called Julie and I'm like, hey, I want to get this card, and she's like, okay, whatever you want to do. And you never want to hear your wife say whatever you want to do, because that puts all of the pressure on you. And I'd originally looked at a 4, and the 4 was a lot more, $1,500 more. And I was like, and then turns out I decided to buy it, went back to the dealer's table. He had already sold it. So I went, okay. Again, with no idea that I was going to buy a card like that at this show. And so I walked around and I was on the hunt for 52 Bowman mantles. Now I was like, okay, I'm going to find a better deal. And I found this PSA 3 for much less money. And I bought it. Looked to me, I had a bunch of friends, Ryan knows this. When you're buying a big card, you know this too, John, you want to bring other people to help make sure you're not crazy, like to either affirm what you're thinking or say, hey man, that's probably not the right card for you or whatever. They all looked at this 3 and loved it. And I took it back to the guy that had the 4. Sure enough, he goes, that's better looking than my 4. And his was in an old slab. So to me, I think PSA over the years has gotten a little more stringent with their grading, a little more particular. So I don't know that the 4, that card in that 4 holder would get a 4 today if you were to crack it and resubmit it. But it had some gum stains on the back. This one's super clean on the back. So I couldn't be happier with what ended up transpiring. And I got the card that's really better for that I just like better, honestly, for a lot less money. And so the crowd in Dallas just was nuts also. If you've seen any videos from that, it was packed. And unlike the Philly show, which I need to go to a Philly show because y'all have both been to a Dallas show. It's basically flipped from Philly. It's 80% modern, 20% vintage, a lot more modern dealers. And I think that's just because it's a newer show. Philly show's been around for decades. The Dallas show is relatively new into the hobby. And so you've got newer dealers being able to get tables at a Dallas show versus, you got these kind of long-term dealers at the Philly show that have been doing it forever. And so it's just a different vibe. It's not necessarily better or worse, but it was different. But I was able to find a few things. I picked up just random stuff a lot, but crowds were nuts. Had a great time as always. And that's the report from the show.
What day did you pick up the mantle?
Saturday. The same day I also, on my video on my channel, Baseball Collector, I do a recap of Saturday's show, and I interviewed David Mantle. He was there, Mickey's son, and I interviewed him.
So you're the guy that bought the NFT 101.
Yeah, he actually mentioned that in the interview. I thought that was interesting.
Because the winner, whoever won that auction, which I haven't heard them been identified. I don't know if they're gonna eventually gets to interview David and Danny Mantle. I don't know in what capacity. Like if they're not a content creator, I don't know if they're just gonna go out to lunch and shoot the what. But if they are someone, a content creator, they can. I'm assuming they can use that content of that interview. So
well, I got to interview him, and I didn't even have to spend $500,000 on a worthless NFT.
You cheated, you cheater. and then you bought a real Mantle card as another way to rub it in.
Makes the thumbnail. I saved $500,000 at the Dallas card show.
Yeah, there you go. You gotta make like a crazy shock face when you do.
Yeah, of course. I did take the mantle. I took the 52 over to David and showed it to him afterward, and he was like, "That's really great," because I talked to him about how big his dad is in the hobby, even today, that he's the GOAT of the hobby, in my opinion. Root's the greatest player ever. Mantle's the greatest in the hobby ever. I mean, if you debate that, I don't know what crack you're smoking, but it's definitely Mantle's the guy, right? And he crosses generations, and I never saw Mantle play, but I love picking up his cards. And I know who doesn't want to own Mantle stuff, right?
Well, listen, I had some Mantle stuff.
Maybe some Red Sox fans, but that's about it.
Yeah, maybe some Red Sox.
Even they know, Ryan. Like they may not like him that much, but even they know what the deal is. Speaking of the Mantle sons, and what is he said? He's David. You spoke to, right? Do you know?
Right.
Do they collect cards? Do they have like cards of their dad?
So I take it you haven't watched my video, or else you would know the answer to that question.
I haven't, man.
No. In fact, they only have a few things of his. They don't have. It was funny how David referred to his dad's rookie card as the 52 tops, and I didn't have the heart to tell him that's not his rookie card. I hate to tell you, but he mentioned not having the 52 tops, talking about the NFT thing that was going on, and yeah, they don't have a lot of stuff really. It's kind of sad, actually.
A question from Tom Fage here. He asked you, did David Mantle have a website where he was selling those pens?
I bet he does. I don't have that information. I didn't take a picture of it or anything. I probably should have. But he's at a lot of the Dallas shows. So next time, Tom, I'll try to put that on the video so you can watch it.
Yeah. Let's give some hellos. Rich Klein. Hey, Rich. Rocco, how are you? Herman, 3B collection. Nathan. Chris Harris is in the room. He was at the Philly show as well.
Yes.
Yep. So when you bought that card, not to keep harassing you about it, but when you bought that card, was that like the end of your when you buy a card like that where it goes over your budget? How do you go home soon after that? How do you handle your show?
No, I don't think I bought anything after that. Not because I had to borrow money from a buddy to buy it with cash, and then I sent him a check on Monday to cover it, but I didn't have that much cash with me, and you can't go to a ATM and withdraw, a couple $1,000. So I had to improvise, and that was that was great. And so, yeah, I still had a few $100s, but I just nothing jumped out. I mean, I wasn't completely tapped out, but I did rest a little bit after. Like, you kind of go sit down and just enjoy the moment for a second, picking up a card like that, at least for me. And
yeah, that's cool.
So what all did you sell at your show, John?
Real quick comment, and I'll talk about that. John Keating from the 70s Card Show. I'm a Red Sox fan. I just need the 52 to complete the Topps run. A lot of people need 52, like you said, including Mike. Speaking of Manos, I had about 6 Manos graded in my showcase. I wound up taking 2 back home with me, so I sold 4 of the 6 that I had. I sold, like I mentioned, it was my best, not my best show ever, my best Syracuse show ever, as far as what I sold. And again, 4 Manos, but I sold a lot of vintage period besides obviously the Manos. I mean, there was a 2-hour stretch. My buddy came and hung out with me, and I could barely talk to him because I was just answering questions, pulling stuff out of the cases, wheeling and dealing and haggling with some folks. And he said, "Holy smokes, man! I mean, he dabbles in cards a little bit, but he's not you know, and like I am, and he was just shocked at how fast it happened. The show actually started slow for me, guys. I was actually like, uh-oh, you know, every once in a while there's a clunker, and I thought that's where we were. That was the direction we were headed, and it was like someone turned on a switch, like a light switch, and it picked up. It was a record for most people at a Syracuse show, a card show, 800, which I know to some of the bigger shows, you know, isn't a ton of people, but it's a good amount of people walking through the door. And we had two autograph guests, Devin Singletary, the running back for the Bills, and Jimmy Smith, former Jaguars wide receiver, and my Pop Warner teammate for a year back when I was in Fort Lauderdale for a couple years. Funny story there. So those two gentlemen were in the building signing autographs. So we had more traffic. I won't even attest to my show being because of that, because I think a lot of people came sort of for the autographs, and that was what they were there for. But I just think it created some buzz, and very pleased with how I did. And you know, it's always nice when you bring home less cards than you brought to the show when you're a dealer. And you know, but you know, I didn't get. I here's the funny thing. I usually always buy something when I set up at shows, whether it's someone coming to my table, or you know, I get to leave my table for a little bit and do kind of a quick walk around and check out others' tables. This is the first time that I can recall that I bought not a single card at this show. Very few people came up to me. I don't know why, you know, with their cases, and asked if I was buying. And actually, the few that did, it was really before I really started to do well. So I'm like, right now, I'm gonna wait it out. Check back with me later before you leave, kind of a thing. But they never came back when I actually had some decent cash on me after all those sales. So I didn't buy nothing, which is okay. You know, that's all right. But again, very pleased. And vintage, you know, I don't know if you guys agree. I mean, for me, and honestly, I'm more modern or ultra modern, if you will, than vintage. I have a decent amount of vintage, but vintage really carried the day. I sold quite a bit of wax too, sealed wax that I have. Um, Especially on the Montgomery Club exclusive side stuff. So that stuff added up pretty quick. And I did sell obviously modern cards, but I mean, if there's a theme for me anyway at this show, it was the vintage. It sounds like the same thing with Ryan, but like Ryan pointed out, the Philly show is mostly vintage. You know, just shows aside, guys. I mean, where do you see like the market right now? You see like kind of vintage being the flag bearer right now. We've seen some of the modern stuff kind of come down. Hobby reset, as Ty Wilson has coined it. You know, prices have mellowed out, whatever term you want to use, come down. I mean, why do you think? Do you agree with that assessment, guys? That kind of vintage is right now sort of the man of the hour, if you will.
So at least what I'm thinking right now, vintage is always kind of like in the back burner at the hobby because people are going after the modern cards no matter what with the releases. People are going to always chase after those. But I think people that are newer to the hobby are starting to become wiser and realize that a lot of the vintage holds their value. Instead of holding on to some of their brand new Prism cards, they realize, oh, I'd rather have a mantle that is going to flatline or go up a little bit, appreciate every single year. But it's going to be an interesting case study how that works for a lot of people that just flip in general, because vintage doesn't go up 50% or 100% overnight. It's very gradual. So how that'll integrate into their business plans, I don't know. But I'm noticing a lot more people that tend to flip cards are now getting into vintage. Obviously, just the big names right now, they haven't done their full research on other Hall of Famers or mid-tier or low tier yet, but they're going after some of the higher tier people and trying to flip those cards.
Yeah, I would add in, yes, vintage is strong right now. I wouldn't call it like going crazy or anything, but but you could say that about vintage 5 years ago. You could say that about vintage a decade ago. And I always equate it to vintage is the tortoise and modern is the hare. And I've read Aesop's fable. I know who wins the race. I mean, you're just not it's hard to lose in vintage if you're buying quality players, and we already know who they are. We don't have to guess who the quality players of vintage are versus modern. You're guessing who the quality players are going to be down the road, who are the greats. I did pick up another great card. I picked up a 89 Upper Deck Griffey autographed. I've always wanted that card signed. So he's a great of all
Same
time.
show at that show.
Yeah, that was on Friday.
That's an
So
incredible.
that was before the mantle.
Yeah, pre-mantle.
Yeah, would you bought that if you had bought the mantle first?
Of
Would
course.
that change you? Yeah.
No, would not have
All
changed that. Yeah, because
right.
that was significantly less. What's great is you can do like this is the cool stuff you can find at shows. So I paid $240 for this.
Seems
right?
like a steal.
Yeah, I stole it. Griffey's about to do a signing, and I know a lot of guys that are getting this card raw, which are going to pay $30 to $70 depending on condition for a raw one. He's $300 to sign it. Then this is this is dual service, so the card's graded, the auto's graded. So you're talking that's going to cost you $100 to get that done at PSA. By the time you're done, you're in the card for between shipping and insurance and everything, $400 to $500. I got it for $240. So, and I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to send the card in to get signed and get it back and then send it into PSA, wait 5 years to get it back from them. And, all that kind of stuff. I bought it.
You bought that at a table?
Yeah. Yeah. The guy had several of them.
What do you think? He's just in them cheaper than that and says, hey, I'm going to move them, or he just didn't kind of do the math? How do you think a deal like that
I think there's a lot. Well, first of all, the card's only graded a 5. So, and I didn't.
Well, you're not buying that for the card grade at that point.
That's right. But the fact that it was a 5 made it a lot cheaper, right? And the auto's a 10, by the way. So that's all I really cared about.
So it's a 7.5 when you put those two together.
That's right. You add them together, it's a 7.5. But Ryan sees this too. If you go to a shows, you're savvy, you can find good deals. I just think I found a Pee Wee Reese tucked in a corner of a guy that was getting very little traffic because of where his table was, and I was able to. He didn't have a lot of sales, so he was ready to make a sale, and I was able to get a Pee Wee Reese 50 Bowman slabbed up, super cheap. I just think that vintage will always have a place. It'll always be strong, I guess is the word to use. And I saw so many guys walking up to table, the Pelican Case crew, walking around trying to sell. They're going up to every dealer that I was standing talking to a dealer. Hey, are you buying? Are you buying? Are you buying? Are you buying? And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, a lot more people selling at shows to if they're selling higher end stuff, they want to avoid the eBay authentication crap that happens, right? Nobody wants to deal with that. And you get, cash, no taxes. I joked around that I'm going to go to the National with a fake IRS badge and walk around and challenge people. Hey, did you give that guy a 1099? Did you get his tax information to send him a 1099 for that cash you just gave him? But I've learned that impersonating a federal officer is not a good thing to do. And
I think it's something that starts with an F, a felony. Oh yeah.
Let's not do that.
Don't make those dealers any more paranoid. There's some dealers that will not go anywhere near camera and then say you can't record my showcase because I don't want the IRS to know that I'm at the show. And that's happening.
It's crazy. I think it would be hilarious if I did it just as like a America's Funniest Home Videos thing, but I don't want to risk getting in trouble. So it would be funny though. But I think that a lot of people are trying to avoid, 1099s from eBay or PayPal or wherever they might get it from. A lot of cash only places that had signs literally that said cash only, no PayPal, no Venmo, because they don't want to deal with it. It's pretty.
I still take PayPal. I still do Square. I just, one of the other dealers asked me about that. Like, you want to take PayPal, man? I'm like, I don't want to lose a sale. Like, I want, if I got to pay tax, I'm paying tax already. I don't want to lose the sale if it's the choice between, making a big sale and not. So not a lot of people are using it. Like I didn't, as far as well as the show as I had, none of it was PayPal sales. I did have a Venmo sale. Gentleman asked me, do you take Venmo? I said, yeah, I have it. I don't use it a lot, but it works. Let's go. And so I made a 3-digit sale in the Venmo category. So long as it's spendable and it's American, I'm gonna take it. I agree, cash sales are king. Cash is king. Not gonna argue with you there, Mike. We're waving the same pennant. Couple more hellos. Zach Birds says, "Good evening, guys." Hey, Zach. Kevin Jones with a vintage comment. For years, vintage has just had that nice, steady 5% growth each year. It's hard to go wrong with vintage. No argument from me there. Don's Field of Dreams. Hey, guys. How are you? Ziggy, no. Cheers, legends. Thanks for all the great info and content, John, Ryan, Mike. Hey, Ziggy, welcome. Yeah, feel free. I put the link up there if anyone wants to join us, but the chat room's buzzing just the same. So, Chris Harris with the 240. Oh, yeah, which is my favorite Beastie Boys lyric. Oh, yeah. But
we need Don's Field of Dream. Don needs to come on. He's a vintage guy. He could throw in his 2 cents. He should copy and paste that link into his computer. But he does.
Here he says, "Hey, we're going to go see Mike in handcuffs for impersonating an IRS agent,
a big officer arresting him."
I wouldn't do good in jail. I'm exit only. So out of the,
Hey, it's a family show.
Hey.
Good evening, Frank.
Read into it what you want. Exit only. Thank you. I would not do good.
So Ryan, what's your next show on your schedule?
Yeah, so I'm going to Michigan this weekend, and honestly, so much about this show. I think it's actually at a card shop. So I was looking for a show this weekend around the country, and I saw Michigan popped up. I saw a YouTube video on it. So Grand Rapids this weekend. Following weekend, I'm going to a local show at a flea market where I used to go to to buy cards when I was a kid. So it's kind of cool to go back there. And then ending the month off in Cleveland where they have the big vintage show. And what's nice about that show is, at least what I've heard, is you can't have a card in your showcase newer than 1990.
It's a rule?
Nice.
That is a rule there.
Wow, that's different. It's kind of different, but I mean, it's the promoters or whatever they want to make the show against whatever they want to make the show about. So at least you'll know, if you're going to the show, you'll know what you should be seeing pretty much. It gives you sort of a target. Let's talk about the Tops, the conference, Tops Fanatics conference. They had that in Arizona. A bunch of news came out of that. Guys, I'm sure you followed along. The big thing for me that stuck out for me was the latest card art version that we're going to get from Tops. Kind of vague, but they did give some details. It's going to be called, I think Project 100. And it's not going to be early indication. It's not going to be where they or you, based on how many people order them, that's how many they print. This is going to be the way it was worded, a limited print run, a set number. You kind of get in line to buy the pieces, and when they're gone, some of things. So it sounds like Tops has learned from some prior mistakes with these card art print the demand releases and some of the fatigue. I mean, I love card art, but after, first you had Project 20, then Project 70, Project 2020, then Project 70, and then even some of the other stuff, game within the game you can put into that classification. the living set. So a lot of these card art printed demand, and I think they had to change it up. I think if they would have come out with something along the same exact lines, I think people are kind of card art fatigued, and so I think this was sort of a good call if the way it's being posed that it's going to be sort of a limited print type of thing. So
Is there somebody wanting to get in the chat? Is there someone wanting to get in? I heard the little beep of StreamYard.
Nope, I don't see anybody. I don't know if they were
the Discord. I joined a server and I forgot to mute it. So
okay.
It's Chris. Ryan's double timing us. Comment from Frank Doe. You will love Grand Rapids, great city. And Chris Harris, I think, is asking Ryan, is
Strongsville.
it
Yeah, that's the show. So I'm going to Strongsville in March, and then also going to, I think it's Mueller in April, which is in Cincinnati. So it's another big vintage show. Ohio's kind of like the vintage capital in our hobby, at least what I've noticed.
Now, you said you're going to a show this week that you think's in a card shop.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in a card shop. I'll be honest, I didn't do much research on it. I was just looking for a show in Michigan. I saw it, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to knock off Michigan off my list.
So you're going to walk in, and you're basically going all the way to Michigan to a card store, basically.
Pretty much. So I'll do that. I'll get some food. I'll check out. There's like 2 or 3 card shops in the city. So I'll just go to each of them, grab food, head back to the airport at night, fly back. It was like $100 flight. So it's whatever.
Yeah, you can't beat that, especially nowadays.
John, I just noticed something. I just realized something. You and I, have these wonderful, awesome facial hair. I don't know that Ryan's old enough to even grow facial hair. Like,
I think he's legal to drink now, though. That part he's got down.
That is good.
Younger than I am, though, which is, I guess, it's a good thing.
No, all good. I'm just kidding. Ryan knows I love him. He's been here.
I've seen the beast in person.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we both have. Yeah, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time. Oh, we do have. Here's Don. Don's Field of Dreams. I'm gonna bring him on, guys.
It's in person.
Yeah. Welcome, Don. Yeah, we both have. Yeah, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time. You might want to turn down your Don's Field of Dreams. I'm gonna bring him on, guys.
Yeah, turn off your other thing, Don.
What other thing?
Well, you can't watch us and be on stream at the same time.
How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
I heard Mike say to get on, and then I heard facial hair, so I figured I qualified.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm really outnumbered now, 3-1.
I was gonna say Ryan's the odd man out.
Do we have anyone that has no facial hair that wants to join?
Don, is this your rookie appearance on Hobby Hotline?
It is.
Man, well,
Yeah,
welcome
so
to Popping Your Cherry.
It depends on your definition of rookie. Like some people will argue being in the chat room is your rookie.
That's like a person.
That doesn't count.
Trial by fire. Don, what's your thoughts on the where the vintage market is right now?
Expensive. I mean, it depends what you're looking for. You can still find some good deals, but man, some of the things I want, it's just like, geez. Like I was just looking at a 1978 Reggie Jackson, and even that card, I was like, man, I don't want to pay that much for that card. I guess I have a hard time paying for cards in the late 70s for $200 for the grade I was looking for on that card.
So that's probably a 9 for that card.
It was an SGC 8. It was $200.
Wow.
Yeah. Now he was a little high. I could go down a little bit, but I wanted to spend around $100 for that card, and at least a 7.
Yeah, it's getting. Again, none of it's really hard to find still. Like it's not. Right. Although you could argue that because of the backup at PSA, you could say that the vintage stuff's getting sucked up and getting kind of put away for a lot of people, and there's less supply being put out there by PSA every week or every month, that it's becoming harder to find it, but you can still, I mean, it's still readily available. It's just, are we willing to pay the price? And all of us remember, we're all like, God, 3 years ago, I'd have paid, that'd have been a $20 slab, and now it's hard to go, yeah, sure, I'll drop $180 or $150 on a 70s card. I totally get your mindset, Don.
You know where I have found a couple good deals is on my slabs.
Yeah.
There's not a great selection, but I've found that guys are pretty willing to accept offers. And I don't make ridiculous offers, but I think they're fair, and they've taken them, and you save on the taxes, so it ends up being a pretty good deal.
Well, you got to, if you want something. Oh yeah, there it is.
So $200 card.
No, it's not, because this is only a 6. And
I thought it was an 8 at first.
Actually,
Mike, how do you find something so fast in that mammoth beast of yours?
See,
just like that, you're like, oh, here it is.
See, Don, you haven't been here. These two guys have been here.
Well, I've never been invited.
It's open invitation. Now,
it's always open. I'll be right back myself. Hang on.
Ryan can attest to this. To have this much crud, you have to have it anal organization, right, Ryan?
Think.
That's great. Like you can literally tell where everything is. Really? I'm impressed with the organization because I could not be that organized with my sports cards.
But Don,
so whenever I do, go ahead, Mike.
No, Don's gonna love this. I got this 78 Topps. This is a PSA 6. It looks perfectly fine. Like
for $30.
No, I got it for free. Eric, those back pages, gave it to me as a gift a couple of years ago.
Well, that's a good way to get it.
That's a good price. Free is a good price.
Yes, it is. Hey, John, I have a question.
Sure.
I've watched you plenty of times, and I know you're from New York City and you live in upstate New York, but I believe you're a Steelers fan?
I am. You're wondering how that happened?
Yes. I don't know if you know, I live in Pittsburgh, so.
Yeah, I'm a huge Steelers guy. Under normal conditions, I usually go there twice a year and catch two of the home games. If they come, obviously, to Buffalo, I'm always going to go to that game as well. It happened because, I've told this story before, so if someone's heard it, I apologize. I'm going to tell it again. I'll do the Cliff Notes version. Growing up in New York, I wasn't into the Jets and Giants. They weren't very good at that time. This is about 1977, 78. Obviously, if you're a Steeler fan, that was sort of the heyday of the Super Bowl runs. And I just was a big Mean Joe Green guy. And then that Coke commercial came out. And the kid that is in that Coke commercial that gets Joe Green's jersey thrown to him, you saw a picture of me. We were about the same age, and we looked very similar. So I kind of vicariously saw myself in that kid that looked like me, same age. I already kind of was liking the Steelers, and that just kind of sealed the deal. And believe me, I took a lot of heat from my New York City friends. Like, I'll leave out the swear words, but how do you like the Steelers? You can't even go to a game. They're not New York. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, guys, I don't like the Jets or Giants. I'm sorry, man. They suck. Richard Todd doesn't do it for me.
Richard Todd.
Remember, I can't even remember I don't know who the Giant. It was Phil Simms, but it was a little bit even before Simms, which I don't even remember who it was. But I just was not a Jets or Giants fan. And I just gravitated. I love the colors, black and gold, and the rest is history. I never wavered, even as you know, Don, in the 80s when things got really bad, kind of rock bottom again. I never traded in my card and left. And, that's the story. Just, I would say it was more, I was already kind of liking them. And then the Coke commercial came out. And that was it. I was locked in and a bona fide Steeler fan to the chagrin of all my New York friends and family. Took some abuse, but hung in there and lived the toll. Tell about it.
Yeah. So that's funny. In a past life, I was in sales and I covered 8 states. I was down in Lexington, Kentucky on a sales call, and those guys were all Bengals fans, and They're all talking
Yeah.
about their team. I said, "Oh, my team took a loss this weekend." And they're like, "Well, who do you like?" I'm like, "The Steelers." And the guy was like almost pissed. He's like, "I don't get it. Why would you like the Steelers?" I'm like, well, I was born in Pittsburgh. I was raised in Pittsburgh. I still live in Pittsburgh. And then he was like, "Oh, okay. You have an excuse." But just the fan base is huge. Same with your Cowboys, Mike. I mean, all over the country, people love those teams.
America's team.
And the guy was
Well,
like,
I told Brad, Mike, the next time the Steelers go to Dallas, them and I mean, if a perfect scenario, there's a Dallas card show. The Steelers are in town, and we have to go to the. I have to see the Steelers play in that stadium, which I saw the stadium on the outside. It is incredible. But to see Steelers versus Cowboys in Dallas would be pretty cool. Make on one of my future Dallas trips. So hopefully
that would be a good
all
trip.
hopefully that all works out. Greg Fruitman says, "Good evening, everyone. Please hit the thumbs up icon." Yes, please do. Thank you. Speaking of Reggie's, I have this one. That's what I got up to get. This is 79
Yeah.
and an 8. And I got this card about, I don't know, 6 years ago. And obviously before stuff went up, I got this probably $15-20. And the story with this is this is really what got me hooked on cards. The first pack of cards I opened was a 79 Topps pack, and the fourth card in was a Reggie. Not this Reggie. This was one, like I said, that I bought 5 or 6 years ago. But that Reggie that was in that first pack I ever opened is really what got this journey started. And so when I thought back, I'm like, I don't have that card anymore. I mean, I was throwing that thing around like it was a bowling ball. That would have great. Probably if I had the original one, it would have grade a 2 the way I treated the thing. This was before we know some of the stuff we know now. But I'm like, I got to go back and get that card that sort of started, where I am 40 years later, in a graded form. And so that's a little bit of the story with this card, and it's in one of my show my slabs cases on the wall there. And whenever I look at it, it just reminds me, where it started, really, comparative to where we are today. We all have, something along those lines that, where we remember, like, how we got what started the journey to where we are today with our collections, content creation, or whatever else we're doing in the hobby. Speaking of that, Brad's ears must be ringing. I just talk about him. Hey, Brad, how's it going? Kevin Jones says, I got a 72 Kellogg's Reggie and an 8 for $30 back in the old 4 sharp corners days.
What he's talking about there, the old 4 sharp corners days are pre-pandemic. You could go on 4 sharp corners, man, and you could just kill it, getting great 80s and 70s stuff, even 60s stuff, super cheap, because they just had so much of it, right? And that has changed. If you go on, I did an order for 4 sharp corners today, and let me tell you, it ain't cheap anymore. It is not the same as it was just a few years ago, and those orders are fewer and far between now. But I used to order once a month. I'd kind of go, all right, I'm going to go raid 4 sharp corners and see what I can get, and added hundreds of cards through them. And you always do it on, they have an eBay presence, but if you go online, it's always much cheaper and no tax. So go see what you can find.
Don Keating says you need the Burger King. You know how many Burger King Reggies I had back in the day? Again, just throwing them around, trading them. I don't have any more, but it's a good point. Now you're spending my money for me. I have to maybe go searching for one of those. So, but yeah, I remember those. I used to eat just the burger at Burger King. Not the bread. I would just take out the meat. The stuff you remember when stuff like that comes up. Don, what are your what's your approach with vintage? Are you a set guy? Are you a player? A player guy? What's your approach?
No, I'm a Hall of Fame collector, like Mike.
Okay. Yeah.
So 99% of my collection is Hall of Famers. So when I do a set, it's just the Hall of Famers, and I don't do all the sets. To be honest, I kind of shy away from sets that have Mickey Mantle in it, or I already have Mickey Mantle just because of the cost. And I only collect the guys that were actually playing. Like I just finished the 54 top set, but I don't include Lasorda and some of the other guys. No particular reason. I just like the players in that set. I don't, get the guys that are managers. As far as I'm a big Stan Musial fan, so I do PC him and Clemente, but my connection with Musial is I think it has a lot to do with my dad. Musial is from Pittsburgh, and he grew up in a steel mill town Pittsburgh was a steel mill town, but that specific part of Western Pennsylvania where he grew up was big in the steel mills. And my dad used to call on his father-in-law's grocery store. My dad sold for Colgate for 30 years. So he'd go to these little towns and call on these grocery stores. He never met Stan, but it was cool hearing stories. He'd go into Stan's father-in-law's grocery store, and I guess that's where my connection, maybe being Polish, Stan's Polish. It just reminds me a lot of my father. Obviously, my father was not Stan Musial caliber baseball player, but just I've never heard a bad word about him. That's like Jackie Robinson, Hank Aaron, those guys. You just never hear anything bad about them, and that's what kind of draws me to certain players. I just imagine if I were to meet him, I would be disappointed.
Yeah. It's Stan Musial. I think Mike will agree, Ryan. I've always said, when we talk about pricing and the cards, to me, he's still really, when you look at the body of work and what that guy did on the baseball field, his cards are way too cheap for when you compare him to players of his era. I mean, he's a great buy. When someone asks me, "Hey, John, name a vintage player that is still fairly affordable, that's good," he's one of the first guys that pop right in my head. I'm like, Stan Musial.
There's two guys. You could say Stan Musial, Frank Robinson are the two guys that I think are way hobby wise not where they should be given their body of work. And just so you all know, Don is my collecting doppelganger. We are so like-minded and have become friends. And I somehow he got riled up or caught up in all of our YouTube craziness and has his own YouTube channel. So if y'all don't follow Don on Don's Field of Dreams cards, make sure you go check it out.
I would have
Mike was the one who pushed me to go to the National last year. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to go. And I got to meet Mike there and a bunch of other guys. So
we're gonna see you this year. Are you going to Atlantic City? We're gonna see you.
I am. We have an Airbnb, 7 of us, 7 YouTubers. So it'll be fun.
A funny comment from KBO here. Can't afford 4 sharp corners. I'm more of a 1 missing and 3 rounded. So
one thing I've noticed about Musial cards, I mean, he didn't have many, so I have his common cards, and they're not commons, but his oddball cards are not cheap.
No, they're not.
There's some rare cards out there, and I know Mike's looking for this card too. His 48 leaf rookie card. It's not cheap.
Not cheap.
So there are a few of his going up, but if you want a 63 or 59, they're very reasonable.
The 58 All-Star, Kevin Jones mentions that, and he's right. That's a great.
Yep.
That's his first Topps card. So
it is.
That's one of those. I like that card so much. I'm trying to get it in every type of slab that's out there. Here, I'll show you. Hold on. I know where it is.
Frank Robinson. Yeah, Frank Robinson won. I know he won 1, right? I don't know if he won too. Well,
I think
someone can look.
maybe he's thinking of his
you want
MVPs.
Yeah, he won an MVP in the AL and the NL. So we have that. I don't know if he won 2 Triple Crowns though. But I was gonna say
only player ever to win an MVP in both leagues. Believe it or not.
Yep.
And the first
That's surprising.
African American
first black manager
can't talk.
as well.
So here's the 58 All-Star if you're not familiar. And if you're not familiar with that, climb out from under the rock you're under. And then I got an HGA one already, and I'm going to get a BGS and a SGC, and I'm going to have like the
You're going for the rain. You're going for the rainbow.
Then he's gonna go through the 1 through like 7 or 8 before it gets to that 9 and 10 price point.
Yeah, I'll definitely stay on the lower graded side, but I think it'd be cool to have one card where you have all the different slabs and you can really compare. I don't know, it's dumb, but that's sometimes I do dumb stuff.
We all do a lot of weird things. Like I have the 76 Hall of Fame set, and they're all in SGC, and they have to be in the new label. It's the only set I did that with. If you ask me why, I don't know. It's like I just did it. Now it's like I don't have any other set where I'm like that. You know, I have SGC, PSA. I don't care, but for some reason, I did that. We all have, you know, those weird things, Mike.
We call those idiosyncrasies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Here you go.
Although, Mike, I hear you're starting to think about buying SGC, and I want you to stay in your lane. Don't buy the cards that I want. You're jacking up my prices, man.
Hey, Don, you've seen my collection. I've already got all the cards you want, so don't worry.
Well, that's true. You do. What an ass. I mean,
His shots fired. As the
Don
kids
and I are
say.
good friends, so I can.
No, I know.
It's okay.
That's funny. Well, guys,
like
getting back. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm good. Go on, move on.
Well, we were talking about the time. Anything, the card arts, the new incantation or whatever you want to call it, stood out. Anything you took from what you heard from that came out of that? I know it's obviously modern cards. We're talking about vintage, but anything that stuck out to you?
Well, I'll throw out there that, and Ty and I talked about this the other day on our show. I think Josh Luber might be like, I want whatever drugs he's on, he needs to share because 10x the number of breakers.
Yeah, that's nuts.
They can't even get product out now. How are you going to get product enough? And if you do, you're just going to flood the market. There's not even enough people to want to buy into breaks. There's just the math, their guerrilla math of what they think the hobby is going to be is I think they're just making promises to their investors and whatever that they just can't keep long term. And I think it's going to bite them in the butt down the road.
Yeah, I commented on my show 10 times the breakers. Some will argue, we have too many now in a sense, and then you want to 10 times it. And like you said, first thought I had, Mike, was where's the product coming from? Breakers are some breakers are scrambling around trying to get what they have now. So I don't know, I'll say it. I'm not a huge fan of Josh Luber, but to each their own. And I have a difference of opinion there. People always ask me, are they gonna make a lot more cards? Well, my answer to that is I don't know, but they spent a lot of money on a license. They got to make money, right? They're a business, and we can talk about it in hobby sense, but this is an industry, this is a business, and they just made a huge investment for the next 20 years is what the rumor, how long their licensing lasts. So they got to generate income. How do you generate income? You got to make a lot of sales. So, I think you're going to see things, maybe some new products, NFTs, which, I know speaking for me and Mike, we're not going to be customers in that category, but there are a lot of people that love that stuff, so they're going to make money on that end of the thing. And I don't know. I get asked that all the time. I'm sure you guys do as well, being content creators, but I think it remains to be seen. But yeah, that comment stuck out. Ryan, anything to you that you picked up on from that?
Yeah, so I was actually going to talk about the new project that Fanatics is launching, which is Zero Cool, which now they have the first partnership with Gary Vee, and they're launching that. And so you have an interesting take on it, because where I see their business model going towards is, I know there's some mention of it at the conference, is they're going to start going after these bigger celebrities or other or influencers, what people call them. And it's kind of an interesting effect, because how many people got in the hobby with Gary Vee the past few years, like going around the card shows, just talking to younger people. Some of those people didn't get into cards from older to collectors. They watched a Gary Vee YouTube video and they gravitated towards it. And one thing that Luber and people Fanatics were saying is they're going to try to branch out and get other people that weren't in the card hobby to start promoting sports cards. So with their new brand, which you're talking about, like Zero Cool, they're going to start doing a lot of non-sports. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop that brand, because Fanatics already has access to all the players throughout the different sports, minus hockey. So what type of celebrities, what type of people are they going to go after? They can go after some of these business titans, or are they going to start going after movies? Are they going to go after some of the different musicians? Like, where's the long-term goal on that? Because there are a lot of untapped people out there still that don't collect sports cards and might collect non-sports and then trickle into sports. But 10xing is a large amount of number, especially with the growth of the hobby the past few years.
Yeah. What about, I mean, I saw on their Twitter, the Fanatics Twitter today, the influencers they're trying to get. And John Newman was like at the top of the list of people that
Yeah, just don't have Michael Rubin call me. Don't have Josh Rubin call me. That's all I'll say there. But I'm kidding, but that is funny. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not an NFT guy, so that doesn't move my meter. I'll read it. I'll look into it just to talk about, on the two shows that I do, or in this one too. So three. But other than that, it's not something I'm going to purchase. I love Jackie Robinson. I probably wouldn't buy a Jackie Robinson NFT. I can't see it, touch it, hold it, hand it to you. You hand it back to me. I'm probably not going to be interested in it, and I'll make jokes about it. But again, it's a huge part of the industry now. I mean, I don't know long term, honestly. I don't know if long term these things last. But 20, 30 years ago, I thought grading was a money grab. Not that it isn't a money grab, but I like it a lot more. I didn't like it then, and I like it now. So opinions can change. I don't think that's going to happen with me and NFTs like grading was that, but to each their own. But it's we're going to see. I mean, that's the next. There's products, 2021 products. I believe 13 of them haven't been released yet, and because of all the issues with production and shipping and paper shortage. Now I'm being told so. You might get 2021 products at the beginning of 2023. That'll be pretty. I mean, at some point, if it gets too late in the game, you just got to scrap those and just say it's too late. To me, I mean, I don't want to see a 2021 release at the end of 2022. I mean, you're already thinking about 2023 stuff at that point, especially if you're into the newer stuff. So I don't know what they're going to do. Fanatics got evaluated at $25 billion. Like, build your own production facility, print your own stuff on site, get the stuff cranking out there. If you want to make that investment that they made back as well, you're going to have to sell some stuff. So I don't know. It's a crazy thing.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Going back, saying this again, I used to work for Ernest and Julio Gallo Winery. They had their own box plant. They produced so much wine. They made their own boxes to ship the wine out in, and it makes a lot of sense to have your own paper company. And I don't know anything about modern, so I don't understand, like, how do you bring out 2022 Series 1 ahead of the products that are back ordered? Like, is it different paper? Like, is it just where they put their money? Or
Well, the problem is there's two, from what I understand, there's two printing facilities. One is here
Okay.
in the States and one is overseas. And just with logistics, they're having issues, whether it's locally with paper shortage, staffing issues, like we see in a lot of other industries as well. So they got to try to work those kinks out because this, we're in the new normal. Mask mandates are being lowered. That just happened here in New York. And this is kind of where we're going to be at. People still have COVID or getting COVID. Hopefully, get through it as most have. A lot of the numbers are trending better, but you got to adapt to the times that you're in. There's a lot of smart people in that room that need to figure this stuff out. So, I don't know, but hey, we're up against the top of the hour. I wanted to touch on one thing. We got a lot of baseball guys on screen right now. Obviously, we got the lockout. It just seems by the day, guys, that these two sides are not getting closer together. There seems to getting farther apart, and stuff's getting chippy in social media with comments. And I saw a few players saying, Manfred's terrible. He needs to step aside. The owners are saying we've made a lot of concessions, and they're not making it really that meant they're not matching us in concessions, and they're both basically pointing fingers at each other to why there's no deal. Each week we get an announcement that some part of the regular season has now been canceled, so we're not going to get 162 games. And this is a sport, guys, that just can't learn from prior mistakes. They lost a lot of ground on prior work stoppages, and here we go again. And I don't want to say who's to blame. I think both sides are to blame, but who really pays the price? Baseball fans, right? Folks like us and others that want to see baseball played. Just some quick thoughts and maybe the effect. I think this. This is a hobby show, so we got to talk about the hobby effect. Not good. I mean, you could argue that the baseball hobbies lost the most ground in the industry, and the work stoppage is not. Baseball does, to me. I don't know if you guys agree. Does a terrible job marketing itself. When Mike Trout, some people don't know who he is, and some other the young superstars. They have a lot they could do better there, and then when they're not on the field, which is what's going on now, just another way they're shooting themselves in the foot. Just doesn't bode well for the card hobby. Just your thoughts on the sport and the hobby side of this lockout. Whoever wants to go.
Yeah. Do you want me to go? Oh, I'll let you go first, then I'll talk.
No, go Ryan.
All right. So
Age before beauty. Age before beauty.
Right before the show, actually, MLB just submitted a new proposal. So here's what the outline is. So this is what they just sent over: luxury tax threshold starting at 230 million, going to 242. Pre-arb pool at 40 million. Pool count CBT 1.33 million per team. Minimum salary goes from 700,000 to 770,000 across a few years. A lot more stuff. So they just submitted that to the players. We'll see how that ends up going. I got affected already by this. Unfortunately, I went to Arizona 2 weeks ago to go see Innings Festival and a spring training game, and that unfortunately got canceled. So it kind of sucks on that front. But I mean, what's going to happen with a lot of younger people is they're just going to pivot from baseball to another sport if we can't get the season going. Unfortunately, there's so many other sports out there and cards being manufactured. So it's not like there's just baseball cards out there.
Yeah. I would add in that in terms of the marketing aspect, baseball has been very top heavy for a decade. I mean, how long has Mike Trout been the face of the hobby, or not of the hobby, of the sport, right? And now you've got some great young talent. You've got Ohtani and Acuna and Tatis and Vlad, and Soto, and they're not doing anything with that, that from an MLB standpoint. And it's really a shame. Maybe it's, I would hate to think it's because most of those guys are Latin or Otani's Japanese. I mean, is it because they're not relatable? I don't get that, because if you promote, dude, if the dude can play, the dude can play. I don't care what color
You
of
can
skin
still
they have, where they're from. I don't care.
you can still promote them. They don't have to give out a lemture. You can still do commercials or advertisements. Remember, the ad that sticks out. And I'm not even a huge NBA guy, but remember all those NBA? It's fantastic commercials, right?
Yeah.
Where they went around with some of the superstars, and they're like, it's fantastic, and some celebrities. Why doesn't baseball do more of that? And like you said, with some of those young guys, maybe they don't speak greatest English, but they could say, hey, Major League Baseball, it's terrific, or whatever tagline they decide to utilize, and get those guys out there so people that get to know them, get to know the sport. This is the chat rooms lighten up. I want to highlight a couple of these comments. Kevin Jones makes a point. This is something I thought about. All these games that are getting missed, it's not like a rainout where they play a doubleheader later in the year. These games are gone. When the season is 150 games, there's 12 games that aren't being played. And chances are it's going to be more than the 12 games. Those games can't be made up. So for these players that are on track, maybe to be sort of borderline Hall of Famers, if you will, I know it sounds weird, but those missed games start to add up and can maybe be the difference to someone's whether they get in or not.
Look at that comment by That 70s Card Show. He says that Wars, Rob, I mean, think what Musial and Ted Williams and Willie Mays, even what their numbers would look like if they didn't serve our country.
Yep.
Bob Feller, Whitey
Frederick
Ford.
Griff would be in the Hall of Fame right now, because he would have had 500 home runs if it wasn't for the strike. You're right, Mike.
Well, I'm just saying that happened a lot in the past due to other circumstances, not work stoppages, but world events that were happening at the time. And, we still look at, I mean, there's no doubt Ted Williams would have 600 home runs. Easy, right? He lost 4 years to Korea and World War II. So,
what gets me about these guys? They're not thinking about the guys that take the tickets, the ushers, the bars, the restaurants around the stadium. That's really who's losing out.
They actually are. The MLBPA put up $1 million into a fund for stadium workers.
Yeah.
They did.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And then the owners did the same thing.
But what I will say is, look how many employees there is in every single stadium across 30 baseball teams. I mean, $1 million seems like a lot of money, but I don't even know how many people are employed by a team. But even at 100 times 30, right? Like you're already at 3,000 employees there, and I'm sure that's numbers way lower than it would be.
So every person gets $8.
And hey, eat these hot dog buns. They're gonna turn moldy. Take them home with you.
I mean,
yeah.
And here in Pittsburgh, a lot of employees.
We look at it like nothing's going to change for us. We still have an owner who doesn't put any money into this team. Like nothing's going to change. You listen to talk radio, no one cares about it right now. It's all about, are we going to get a quarterback here in the draft? Are we going to get Russell Wilson? Nope. Are we going to get Aaron Rodgers? Nope. Like no one's even talking about the Pirates, because we feel like what's going to change? It's like we're already apathetic. It's like the last couple of years, I'm like, why am I going to give my money to this owner who could care less about putting even a half decent product on the field? So we're kind of, our feeling here is no one cares in Pittsburgh about this.
Well, I'm not a Pirates. I'm a Mets guy, even though I'm a Steelers fan. The Pirates, I mean, I think you need new. I'll let you can speak to it more than I can, Don. But I think you need new ownership. He's the most hated guy in Pittsburgh. But it's like, what are we gonna do?
You know, we had
Yeah, I
such
mean,
a rich history. Growing up in the 70s, I had Stargell. I don't remember Clemente, but, you know, the
Yeah.
79 World Series, even the early 90s, we had Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla, and we lost all those guys. And then we
Well, I'm
went
a
20
Met fan.
years.
I'm a Met fan. We still have Bobby Bonilla.
That's true, you do.
His production's way down, but we're paying him like he's a superstar. So,
But really, we go to games to see other players. Like my
So,
son, who's 16, could care less about baseball.
yeah, and that stadium is one of the best looking ballparks in
Yeah, it's a
America.
beautiful stadium, and that was the whole deal. You build this stadium for us, taxpayers paid for it. We'll put a team.
Moneyball Card Podcast.
Never happened.
Yeah.
So
Well, let's hope. I'm still a baseball fan. I'll call like I see it. These are just two sides shooting themselves in the foot. There's people like you said, Don, that say, hey, I'll move on to the other sports I like. I'm not going to lose sleep if you can't get it done. And one report one day they met for 15 minutes. Like, what are you doing for 15 minutes? Like, why even bother? Like when you think I use the jury analogy on my show. Juries go in a room and they lock the doors and they deliberate for 8 to 10 hours a day. Like, get in the room and
solve it.
Even if you don't get a deal done, get closer. They're going to play baseball again. There's going to be a deal done. It's not if, it's just when. But the more you meet, the closer you're going to get to that day. Like, get in there and spend 8 hours a day, a work day, trying to get to that deal and whatnot. So, now we got they're enacting new rules, right? We don't have them on the field, but we got all these new rules coming. No more shifting, pitch clock. Who knows what else will be next? So, but
7-inning games,
DH.
7 innings.
The DH.
what do you guys think it's going to do to the hobby? Like, for me, all the guys I collect don't play anymore, so it doesn't affect me at all. But
yeah, I think
maybe the modern guys or collectors are just like, I'm fed up with it. But yet I kind of feel if you're a true baseball fan, you're going to collect anyways. But
I think some of the pivoting we're seeing to vintage from maybe people who didn't do it a lot before or didn't do it at all. I think is some of this going on right here. People getting frustrated with the modern players, and just say, hey, I'll go. These cards are ready made. I don't have to wait for them. I don't know if Mike or Ryan agrees with that, but yeah, I think people go back and say, hey, those seasons been played. These guys are Hall of Famers. I'll do business in that space. I don't if these current guys can't get on the same page with the owners and vice versa, then I'm still going to be in the hobby. I'll just do it in this form or fashion. So it's going to hurt let's be real. It's going to hurt. I don't. It's going to hurt. It's just for how long. People once they get back on the field, some people lay down their arms and forgive and forget and buy cards again. And there's some people who I remember in '94. I'm old and was in the hobby. I had a card store at the time. I remember people in '94 coming into my store saying, I'm collecting basketball now, football. I won't ever touch baseball cards again. Now, whether only they know whether they held true to their mantra or not, but at least they took that stance. There's gonna be people that do that now here in 2022, and and the longer this goes on, the more likely they're gonna keep that stance. Any last comments, Ryan, Mike?
I think that's a good way to end the episode.
Yeah, let's end on a down note. That's a great idea.
Yeah. It's my fault. Who brought me? So, well, let's listen. Let's hope they get on the same page. I'm a baseball guy. I played it in high school. I coached it at varsity level, at high school as well. I'm always going to be a baseball guy, regardless of what's going on. I don't have to like it, but hopefully we get it. rule changes, albeit. But just when the Mets like sign some decent free agents, this happens. That's just our luck. So we'll go out on the Mets down note. I'll take it off the whole league, and we'll make it a Mets down note. But all right, folks. Well, Don, thank you for
Yeah, thanks for having me,
joining us
guys.
and making it Quad
Good being
Box
on here.
tonight. And hopefully we'll be talking about action on the field soon enough. But we'll end on a positive note. Regardless of what's going on or not going on, as far as not playing, you can still hobby, still great. There's 4 guys on the screen that will tell you vintage is where it's at. And so there we go. We'll end on that high note right there. So thanks everybody who joined us in chat. Thank you, Don, for joining us on screen. We'll see you again on Saturday.